Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside War in the Pacific 1941 to 1945. This is a game designed by Steve Pohl and published by White Dog Games. Take a look at the back of the box. It says, War in the Pacific 1941 to 1945 is a two-player game based upon the Pacific theater of World War II. One player controls the forces of the Empire of Japan and the other controls the Allied forces. Game components: a 12-page rulebook, extended example of play booklet, player reference sheets, 2 6-sided dice, a 22 by 17-inch hexagonal map of the Pacific Theater, 208 unit counters and game markers, and 40 random event cards. And as you can see, these are examples of the components inside the box. You've got your map, your counters, and your event cards that are inside. But let's take a look inside the box and look at those components themselves. We've got our event cards, our 2 6-sided dice. We've got some force markers. These were actually loose inside the box. When I got it, I opened it up. It sounded like something was broken inside, and I decided, you know what, let me see what it is. So I opened it up, and sure enough, these counters were floating around, so I bagged them so that way they wouldn't come tumbling out while we're doing the unboxing, because that would be not so great. So take a look at this map, and then we'll come back to the other components in a moment. I actually really like this map. I like the color scheme here, this nice blue down here, and then you've got your light blue for the Pacific. You've got your land areas that are either green or light beige here, and then we've got all of the areas in the Pacific that you'll be fighting over, starting from the west coast of the United States up from Alaska down to San Francisco, just the northwestern part of the United States, through the Pacific for all the areas in the island hopping campaigns, down to Australia, New Zealand, up to China, and India is the furthest west that you're going to have here. And then you've got these primary supply sources for the Allies are going to be Panama, San Francisco, and South Africa. And then for the Japanese, they're all tied into Japan itself: Ikure, Yokosuka, and Hakatote. Those are the three primary supply sources for the Japanese. And as we can see over here, it has the Chinese border, which is listed out right there. And then you've got the naval base and air bases and oil, which if you look here, you'll see anything with an airfield marker is the air base, anything with an anchor is a naval base, and anything with the oil rig is going to be for oil. So those are the areas that you'll be fighting over between the Japanese and the Allies. We'll take a look at the rest of the components now. We've got your game manual, got the Manila Campaign Extended Example of Play, which is the little booklet. It says here, it's said on the back of the box, that gives you an example, an extended example of play. And then at the back of that has designer's notes from Steve Pohl. And then you have player reference cards. You've got 2 of them. They are double-sided. And you've got your reinforcement schedules on the back. This is the Japanese reinforcement schedule and the Allied reinforcement schedule listed out for turns 6 through 16 for the 1943 scenario. And on the back here, it says this is the reinforcement schedule for the full 1941 to 1945 scenario. And then you have your components here, which are, if you've ever gotten any game from White Dog or from Hollandspiel, they're printed by Blue Panther. You know that they're that nice thick hard counters that you're going to get, and that's what these are. You've got your land and air forces, naval forces for the Allies and the Japanese. Allies are the Americans, the British, the Chinese, and then you'll also have a bunch of administrative counters here as well here. And it goes up to page 11, but page 11 is actually the scenarios. The rules themselves go from 1 to 10. It explains everything that you'll need to know about the game, the components, the map, random events cards, sequence of play, determining turn resource points, depot actions, and then check supply status of air and land units, campaign movement and how campaigns work, campaign combat, and determining combat values of each side and how to carry out combat, redeployment and restoration of units, and redeploying fleet stacks, reinforcements, and then your special rules here start on page 10. So like I said, the rules go from 1 to 10. About half of page 10 is the regular rules, and then the other half starts your special rules, which are about turn 1, the use of China, Japanese resources, Allied resources, and then we get into the scenarios. So resources are something you can actually not even bother with if you don't want to, unless you want to use the special rules. But that's a good thing for that. If you just want to jump in and play a pretty base game, you can do that, or expand it out a little bit using the resources, and also in adding China into the mix. So the scenarios, you got a shorter and a what-if scenario. You got scenario begins in 1943, spring of 1943, and delayed entry in U.S. entry into the war. Okay, then we have our event cards here. Allied radar and sonar upgraded, Kamikaze, MacArthur, Allied submarines cause havoc, Emperor Hirohito issues imperial orders extolling the Japanese fighting spirit. And it looks like they've got, some of these have two different events on them. Like here it says, with the Hirohito one, it says, all Japanese land units have a CV combat value of 2. And for the Allies, it says 2 resource points withheld. So some of these do, some of them don't. That's something I'll get into more in the rules when I sit down to play it. But there's a look at the rest of those cards, and that right there gives you an example of everything that comes inside War in the Pacific 1941 to 1945 from White Dog Games. And I hope that helps you guys if you're looking at this game. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.